Well, it's been a rough week in the C-suites. The CEOs of WeWork, eBay, and Juul all stepped down just this week, and they joined more than 1,000 other U.S.-based CEOs who have departed this year. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for investors, though? Are CEO departures a red flag, or can they represent an opportunity for those investors? Joining us with his thoughts tonight, David Nelson. He's Chief Strategist at Belpointe Asset Management. Great to see you. Welcome
Thanks
back.
for having me.
I know you were an avid numbers cruncher, but how much does the person sitting in the corner office affect your investment decisions?
Well, it's certainly a big part of it, but sometimes you can't avoid making the investment. Certainly, Mark Zuckerberg was certainly under fire for Cambridge Analytica and other issues as well that I have. But when I look at the numbers, this is a company that's top line is growing at 20%. Forward PE around 20, a PEG ratio of around 1. Hard to avoid. Not often are you going to find. So sometimes you have to take that into consideration, watch the CEO, watch what happens, but sometimes you can't avoid being in the name.
Now, when you look at a stock, you say sometimes you can't avoid being in the name, but how much does the CEO's performance, say if there is a crisis or if there is an issue, how much does his or her performance influence your decision to either buy or not buy a stock?
Well, certainly the CEO can make or break the company. Obviously, we say that, but not everybody's going to be a Steve Jobs. Those are pretty rare events. So in the end, I do come back to the numbers. But what I look for is red flags in a CEO. For me, a red flag is buybacks. Constantly.
You're not a big fan of those, are you?
I'm not a big fan. Certainly, some companies like an Apple, which have so much money, maybe they have to buy back stock. But for most CEOs, it's code that they're just run out of ideas, and it's the best way to make their bonus.
Bob Iger's very popular as the CEO of Disney, but you fault him for those buybacks that they do.
If you go back to a certain time when they realized they had a problem with streaming, I think they spent over the next several years, they spent about $26 billion in buying back stock. Back then, they could have probably bought Netflix for that same amount of money. Here they are trying to get into the streaming business, so maybe that wasn't an efficient use of capital. He eventually got it, and they're into streaming right now, and they'll probably be a formidable competitor.
What about the incoming CEO? For instance, we saw some CEOs step down this week. Are you influenced in buying a stock depending on who is put in the new position?
I need some food on my plate. I need to watch what happens. I need to see what they're going to do with the company. I'm not going to buy just a personality. I'll probably wait a quarter or two, see what they're going to do, how they're going to shake up the industry, how they're going to shake up the company, and do they actually fix the problems? And a lot of the problems are often in the board because they're the ones who signed these guys on in the first place.
You mentioned Mark Zuckerberg, one of the founders of Facebook, who has continued to be the CEO. Adam Neumann, who was the co-founder of WeWork, just had to step down this week. The issue of an entrepreneur who then continues to try to run the company. The Google boys, they even had to bring somebody in to run that company for a time. Are you a fan of an entrepreneur, an Elon Musk, for example, who founds a company and then remains as CEO?
Look, I'm a fan of the vision. And I think there's a role there, but at some point, it's an operating entity. And you just had on the CEO of Peloton. It's probably endemic of what's going on in IPOs right now, the focus on growth at the expense of profitability. Right now, Wall Street is saying no to that. They want to see some food on their plate.
That's for sure. David Nelson with Belpointe Asset Management. Always good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me.